What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and welcome to Bardstown Bourbon Company Week. We have the rye, we have the wheater, we have the bourbon. We're going to review all three of these this week because we have a lot to get to, and it's already April. And here's the deal. We're going to change things up ever so slightly here on Bourbon of the Week. If you've seen any of my reviews in the past, you know we use price, taste, drinkability to give a score to every bourbon and rye that we've ever had, and we put it on a ranking sheet in order of what we thought was the best all the way to the worst. And in the past, I've realized that ranking sheet has gotten me to where I am today, but it also isn't true to the feelings that I feel about some of those bourbons today. Maybe some deserve to be a little higher, maybe some deserve to be a little bit lower, but when I first started this channel, I only had about 10 whiskeys on my shelf behind me. So I've talked it over with some patrons, and I've decided going forward, we're going to actually do an annual list rather than a full ranking sheet. What this is going to allow us to do is see where we've come from and where we're going. Maybe in the past, some of these bourbons were absolutely fantastic to me at the time, but seeing some of these numbers, I do think some of them are skewed. That doesn't mean any of those videos are not valid, because that's exactly how I felt in that moment. But as we progress through our bourbon journey, shout out Scott, I think we do have to change things up just a little bit. So to start off 2023 with our new annual list, we are going to go with Bardstown Bourbon Company Rye right here. We'll get these other two off the table. Let's pour this up, and everybody knows traditional sip. Let's get to it. Solid pop. Move this bad boy over here so I can get the thumbnail shot, and everybody knows time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. It's probably going to start off good. So here we go, folks, 2023 annual list, starting off with Bardstown Bourbon Company. This is the Origin Series. We're going to talk more about that when we go over the bourbon later this week. But the best thing about Bardstown Bourbon Company is they tell you everything you need to know right on the side of the bottle. They tell us the origin of this, which is 100% their distillate, right? This is Bardstown Bourbon Company out of Bardstown, Kentucky. The age on this is 6 years, and the mash bill is a 95.5, so 95% rye, 5% malted barley. This bottle was distilled in spring of 2017. It is 96 proof. And guys, come here. You're not going to want to miss this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week. We got some very cool information. So let's get into it. We're going to use the same criteria: price, taste, drinkability. Always starting with drinkability. How much ethanol kick is behind this 96 proof? 96 proof seems right on for me. I might say 95, I might say 100. That's right in the middle at 96 proof. I think there's a little bit of a spice behind this, but you got to remember this is a 95% rye. And when we go over this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week, we're going to learn about how they actually get this flavor profile in this. But for right now at 96 proof, I've got to take one more sip and find out what we think about this. We always give it an 8 if it falls right at its proof. I think this might be one of those rare situations where we give this an exact 8. We're going to bump it up just a little bit from the 8. I do think this drink's very easy. There's no real ethanol kick behind this. When you're talking about a 96 proof bourbon, you're not really expecting much at that proof, but at the same time, some people, if you're newer to the whiskey world, might think this does have a little bit of an ethanol kick to it. I'm not one of those people right now, just because of where I'm at in my whiskey drinking career. I've been drinking a lot of higher proof stuff lately, which makes this taste like water. So for this, we'll go right above an 8 when it comes to drinkability. Let's give it like an 8.27 when it comes to drinkability on this bottle right here. And up next, we're going to get a taste on this bottle right here, and we're going to talk about this right now, but we're also going to elaborate more on this during the Bourbon Bomb of the Week. This says right on the bottle, Kentucky Straight Rye Whiskey finished in toasted cherry wood and oak barrels. Now, that's an interesting thing. How is it a toasted cherry wood and oak barrel? Again, make sure you stick around for the Bourbon Bomb of the Week, but obviously that's going to give us a cherry influence on this, which I absolutely get. Mix that with that rye. It's just a very interesting, complex flavor profile that I was not expecting. Let's keep drinking and see what else we can get. Now here's the deal, and I don't like to lie to you guys about how I do my particular reviews. The way I usually do them is when I get a bottle, I'll open it up and I'll start taking some tasting notes from the first glass. Then I like to try it again one more time before I actually sit down and do my review, and I'll take a few more tasting notes. In some cases, I will go online and I'll see what they think you should be tasting. In this particular case with Bardstown Bourbon Company, I did just that, and it told me I should be tasting ripe cherries, toasted oak, white flour, dill, cinnamon, fruit with a lengthy finish. And while all of that may be true, you guys know I'm not the best when it comes to crazy tasting notes. Not that any of those are crazy, but I also watched Jason from the Mash and Drum, and his review on this gave it a floral note. And I gotta say, between the white flour that they said I should pick up and the floral note that Jason says that he gets, that I gotta agree with is exactly what I'm getting on the front of this glass right here. So I was definitely getting that floral note before I went on their website and before I saw Jason's review, but sometimes you just can't put your finger on it. You take that floral note, you mix that with that high rye mash bill on this, and then you end it off with that cherry and that toasted oak cherry barrel. This is something that you're going to have to experience if you truly want to understand what you're getting in this glass. We just got to pour up some more. So you start off the beginning with that floral note, right? You move right into a little bit of sweetness, maybe some vanilla, some toffee on this, right into that 95% rye. So you're going to get that spiciness as well as a little bit of cinnamon on this. Then you move into that twice barrel process. You're going to get those cherries, those sweet oaks on the end. All of this done by Bardstown Bourbon Company. So you know it's blended well because that's exactly how they got their start. At a 96 proof, I did not expect this much flavor at all. This is a great glass. Let's take one more sip and give it a score when it comes to taste. I feel like rye whiskey in general gives me so much more diversity, and maybe it's just because it seems like all the ryes I have are finished in different barrels, so maybe that's what's going on here as well. But for bourbons, they just seem so traditional, and while they're still delicious at the end of the day, ryes just seem so much more broad. This glass right here is very good. Let's go high 8s because I always talk about taste being independent of both price and drinkability. That's why we do it. So let's go high 8s for this because there's always room for improvement. Let's go like 8.62 when it comes to taste on this glass right here. And last but not least, we're going to get into price on this, and this bottle comes in at $69.99. Now, the other two bottles in this collection are $49.99, so why is this bottle $69.99? Probably because of that double oaking process, as well as because of the rye. Rye is usually more expensive than corn, which is why that price goes up a little bit, but do we love this bottle at $70? We got to think about it for a second. Now, here's what I'm thinking. $70 is definitely a tough ask for a bottle of whiskey. There are great bottles of whiskey out there at $70. This is a great bottle of whiskey. It's also $70. I just start to think that people kind of have a cutoff point. Maybe yours is $75. Maybe it's $100. Maybe it's $150, depending on your budget. Maybe you don't have a cutoff point at all. It all depends on the whiskey. But if you see this sitting on the shelf at $70, would I pick it up without trying it? That would be a tough ask for me. I got it. Obviously, I have a bourbon review channel. I've got to try new stuff that comes out. So here it is in my collection. I will drink it again. I will probably get another bottle. If I have an opportunity to at $70, I do think I would get a backup of this bottle. So for that, I'm going to say it deserves a pretty average, if not a little bit above average score. Let's take one more sip. We like to keep price short, then we'll give it a score. If we're going to say that 7 is an average score, I'm going to say this is slightly above average. Not too much though. I would love to see what this bottle tastes like at cask strength, just out of curiosity, or straight from the barrel or something like that, because I guarantee you it tastes a lot different than what I'm getting right here. At 96 proof, still some great flavors, easy drinkability, so let's go right above average when it comes to a $70 price point, and go like 7.14 when it comes to price on this. But listen, I just said all of that. We almost finished our second glass here. So let's send it over to this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week and learn a little bit more about these barrels that I've been talking about this entire time. Cheers, y'all. So here's the deal. When I first grabbed this bottle and I looked at it and it said finished in toasted cherry wood and oak barrels, I had to go straight to the source. So I emailed Bardstown Bourbon Company and I asked them, can you tell me more about these barrels? Where do you get them from? Are they two separate barrels? Are you finishing them twice in two different barrels? Or what's the entire process look like? And they actually got back to me with some great information. They actually work with a company called West Virginia Great Barrel Company, and they said, quote unquote, not me, Bardstown Bourbon Company said this, imagine Tesla meets cooperage. So basically what happens here is Bardstown Bourbon Company takes their rye whiskey, they put it in barrels, they age them for 6 years. After that, they take it out of those barrels and they age them in what's called zebra barrels for another 6 months. So the zebra barrels are actually hybrid barrels. These are 2-to-1 cherry oak to American oak. For every 2 staves of cherry they have 1 stave of American, and they actually use infrared technology to heat these barrels. Now what this infrared technology allows them to do is heat these barrels to a certain temperature to the specific degree, as well as to a certain millisecond of time. This gives them consistency across all of their barrels, as well as penetrates a little bit deeper to give you more of those oak influences with less of those tannins. And after all of that information, they were still generous enough to send me 2 pictures, which you're going to see right now, that infrared technology as well as that beautiful barrel. And I would love to visit West Virginia Great Barrel Company one day because I think that's just as interesting as what Bardstown Bourbon Company is doing with the future of whiskey in that cooperage. But listen, after all that, let's send it back over and see how this bottle actually scored. Let's do it. Listen, if you've made it this far in the video and you haven't clicked that like and subscribe button, what are you doing exactly? This bottle came in an 8.01. Not a bad spot for it at all. I'm excited to see where the wheated bourbon falls as well as the regular bourbon. We have barrel number 34 coming up. We have barrel dovetail coming up. We have Innkeeper's Blend from 2XO coming up. We've got a lot coming up on the channel, so make sure you click that like and subscribe button. But in the meantime, check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Go click that follow button over there. Check out our Patreon page, that link in the description below, as well as our Discord. Come chat with us 24/7. Please don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly and stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all. I mean, it's pretty damn good.